Lynn resented me for taking advantage of her when she was at her weakest. She believed I forced her into marriage during her most desperate time, scolding me as a despicable and shameless person while calmly enjoying my devotion like a loyal dog. However, on the day she found new love and proposed breaking up with me, I unexpectedly had a car accident. From that day on, my personality completely changed. No more being a loyal dog, because that loyal dog died in the accident. What remained was just a mad dog that bites anyone it meets. I am a personality within Ethan's body. My name is Dart. Whenever Ethan experiences extreme pain, I will appear. The first time I appeared, he was only 8 years old, kidnapped and stuffed into a cramped, suffocating car trunk. One night, one of the kidnappers threatened that if the ransom wasn't delivered, this kid would be sliced and cooked into hot pot. It was then that I opened my eyes inside his body. Unlike the timid and weak Ethan, I was calm, strong, and cold. I spoke to him in an indifferent tone. What's there to be afraid of? I'm here. He choked back sobs, panicked, and asked in his mind, Who? Who is talking? I slowly replied, It's me. I am inside you. You can call me Dart. During the days waiting for the ransom, he talked to me every day. Dart, are you my split personality? Are you someone I imagined? Do you really exist? Luckily, you are by my side, Dart. With you here, I'm not afraid of anything anymore. Then I taught him to grind through the rope, taking advantage of the kidnapper's carelessness to stretch his hand out of the trunk to leave marks for passers-by to report to the police. Finally, he was rescued. The police brought him home. Logically, I should have disappeared, but on the day he returned home, no one welcomed him. His father was busy with work and didn't even realize his son had been missing for a week. Of course, he hadn't received any ransom messages either. His stepmother tearfully said, It's good you're back, it's good you're safe, but immediately turned away, sneering coldly, Useless thing. Even the kidnappers couldn't finish him off sooner. His half-brother chuckled, lightly patting his back, but his hand clenched into a fist, knuckles protruding, about to punch him hard. He gritted his teeth and still managed to smile. Oh dear, my little brother Ethan has suffered for days. Ethan's body trembled uncontrollably. In his heart, he begged me, Please don't go, Dart, okay? Please stay with me, okay? I'm scared. I'm really scared. Please. So I stayed. From then on, we shared a body. When it's safe and happy, Ethan controls the body, but when danger or disgust arises, control belongs to me. I am not like him. When his hypocritical stepmother said sarcastic remarks, I would retort directly without any hesitation. When that scoundrel of a brother came to cause trouble, I took a sharp knife and grazed it across his temple, plunging it into the wooden door frame behind him. I coldly warned, If there's a next time, I'll stab you straight in the eye. When Ethan was bullied at school, I would grab the head of the ringleader and shove it into the toilet bowl. Just before he suffocated, I would let go, sneering, Dare to touch me again, and I'll drown you. At those times, Ethan would always say in his mind, Dart, luckily I have you. Can we be together forever? I had read many books, knowing that people with multiple personalities in one body often try to eliminate each other to gain absolute control. But Ethan and I are not like that. We rely on each other, keep each other company like two real brothers. I looked in the mirror at the face we shared. I promised him, Okay, we will be together forever. In the mirror, that face broke into a bright smile, a smile belonging to Ethan, like a spring stream gently flowing through the world, warm, clear, free, and pure. At that moment, I thought, I will protect his smile forever. That is the reason I was born, my only purpose. He only had me, but sooner or later our abnormality would be discovered. No matter how carefully we hid it, a person with two completely opposite personalities would eventually be exposed. His stepmother told his father that she often saw him talking to himself. His stepbrother reported that he held a knife, intending to kill him. Teachers at school also reported to his father that some classmates said that sometimes Ethan seemed to turn into a different person, sometimes gentle and friendly, sometimes cold and ruthless. For a father who always valued his face, this was the ultimate humiliation. He slapped Ethan hard across the face, causing blood to trickle from the corner of his mouth. He angrily roared, How could I raise a lunatic like you? Immediately afterwards, Ethan and I were taken to a private mental hospital. His stepmother leaned against the door, looking at him with a smug look, smiling, Oh dear, this hospital was not easy to find. Ethan, don't be afraid, you can come home after you're cured. The treatment method at this hospital is to use electrical devices to stimulate the nerves, performing electroshock therapy to cure the illness. I was trapped inside Ethan's body, unable to escape. I could only watch with my own eyes as they tortured him with electric shocks. We once tried to pretend that I had disappeared, hoping to deceive them, but each time we were discovered. They forced him to stand in front of the mirror after each electroshock, until he foamed at the mouth, losing all consciousness, for his father to ask him, "Who are you?" They starved him for 2 days and 2 nights, and on the 3rd day, they placed a fragrant chicken leg and a bottle of soda right in front of him, enticing, "As long as you agree to erase that personality, you can eat." They didn't let him sleep, continuously changing the room temperature from extremely cold to extremely hot. This was not treatment. This was torture. I told Ethan, "Just give up. Just do what they say, erase me." But I didn't know where he got the strength. He curled up in the corner of the spacious, empty room, hugged his body tightly, as if doing so would make him not cold and not scared anymore. He gritted his teeth until they bled. The timid child who used to cry every night when kidnapped years ago, now, even in extreme pain, didn't shed a single tear. He said, "I will not abandon you, Dart. I will not let you disappear. We promised we would never be separated. This time, it's my turn to protect you." Finally, on the night he almost died from electroshock, I hypnotized myself to disappear. Before leaving, I said to Ethan, "I'm just leaving temporarily. Ethan, don't be afraid. Keep living bravely. I am always watching over you. If one day you can't bear it anymore, believe that I will return." He thought I was deceiving him. He shouted in a threatening voice, "If you've left, then don't ever come back." But immediately after, that voice changed to pleading, trembling, "Dart, don't go, please. I can endure it. I don't hurt at all, really." Heartbroken, I looked at him in his desperate sobs. I unwillingly closed my eyes. Everything has its cost. 14 years later, on the day he was most distressed, I opened my eyes again inside his body. I didn't understand how a person could be in such pain. It was like being submerged in a boundless ocean, the sky and the sea merging into one in the thick darkness, unable to see the horizon, only giant waves crashing down one after another. His heart was sinking to the bottom of that ocean, aching to the point of suffocation, but I heard him laughing. He was 25 years old, sitting upright in a luxurious living room. Sparkling chandeliers shone down, making him look more radiant than ever. He had grown up, taller, with a straight posture, a sharp and attractive face. He was laughing very comfortably. In front of him was a woman with exquisite features, adorned with luxurious jewelry. But she was looking at him with contempt. She coldly rolled her eyes, uttering, "What are you pretending for? Looking at you makes me nauseous. Go dot." Such harsh words. Ethan slightly frowned, but the smile on his lips didn't lessen at all. Even the curve of his lips was perfectly measured. He smiled, his tone calm, unhurried, as if stating an obvious fact. "Then I'm sorry, Lynn. No matter how nauseous you feel, you'll have to look at this face for the rest of your life." Lynn had left long ago, but he still maintained the smile on his face, until I sighed in his body. Ethan stopped smiling. He froze, the smile at the corner of his lips gradually stiffening. Not knowing how long had passed, he started laughing again. But this time, I saw bitterness in the depths of his eyes. He smiled, his voice as light as a sigh, as if we had never been separated for 14 years. So, he has changed. 25-year-old Ethan was no longer the timid boy I remembered. Before, he was weak, fearful, always being bullied. But now, he was always smiling, the smile like a mask without a single crack. Every lift of his hand, every glance, every word, exuded a composure, an ease, as if everything was under control. He told me about the past 14 years. He said that in that complicated and ruthless family, he had learned many ways to protect himself. He learned how to hide a knife behind a smile, to borrow strength to achieve his goals with sharp tactics. For example, at 18, when his stepmother was pregnant, she tampered with his car, nearly causing him to die in a car accident. Immediately after, he secretly applied a thin layer of olive oil to the luxurious spiral staircase in the house. Then he stood on the highest floor, coldly looking down, indifferently witnessing his stepmother slip and tumble down step by step. He smiled, his voice frighteningly calm. "Dart, do you see? The blood under her body is so beautiful." Or, at 19, he hired someone to seduce his stepbrother's materialistic girlfriend, then sat in the living room, sneering at his stepbrother who was drinking himself drunk over heartbreak. His stepbrother, in a fit of rage, provoked, grabbed a rope that someone had conveniently placed on the table, and lunged to strangle him. At that moment, his busy father coincidentally walked in, saw the scene, and erupted in fury. Ethan panicked, coughing violently, his face flushed purple from suffocation, but no one noticed that as he turned his back, the corner of his lip slightly twitched. He continued to say, afterwards, that beast was kicked out, never to have the chance to appear before me again. Dart, your methods are still too soft. It has to be like this to be decisive, right? Another example, at 21, he brought a beautiful but shallow sworn sister who always wanted to take shortcuts home right at the moment his father coincidentally appeared. From that day on, his stepmother completely lost favor. That sworn sister then whispered in his ear, Ethan, your father said he would divorce to marry me. Don't worry, I will listen to you. She was indeed very obedient. At least, she helped him easily step into the company after graduation and begin to take over the family business. He told me a lot, while I remained silent. Perhaps because I didn't respond, his voice gradually faded, until his face was devoid of any expression. He sat quietly in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, silently asked me, Dart, do you also think Lynn is right, that I am a despicable and shameless person? Do you also find me scary, right? I sighed softly, my tone calm. Ethan, you must have suffered a lot all these years, right? I am not good at saying touching words, but I couldn't restrain the feeling of heartache. I smiled and said, I am very happy, Ethan. Really, I am very happy that you have learned how to protect yourself. He was stunned, but immediately after, my expression darkened, my voice cold. Then tell me, who made you suffer? Right? 25-year-old Ethan had grown up to the point of making me proud. But I didn't forget that every time I appeared, it meant he was enduring extreme pain, utter despair. I thought of Lynn's hateful eyes when she looked at him, and that harsh sentence, looking at you makes me nauseous. Go dot. I couldn't help but laugh coldly, asking him, do you like her? Only when you love someone do you give them the right to hurt you. 25-year-old Ethan, no matter how tough and ruthless he had become, still couldn't escape being bound by love. In front of me, he didn't need to hide anymore. I saw him drop all pretense, his face gradually showing a look of confusion, bewilderment mixed with a bit of childish pain. He asked me, Dart, I have treated her so well, given her everything I have. So why doesn't she still love me? Lynn was his fiancée. They had been engaged for 3 years, a commercial marriage. 3 years ago, Lynn's father suddenly passed away in a car accident. She was the only daughter of the Lynn family. She was studying abroad when she was forced to return home to take over the Lynn Group. At that time, Ethan had already begun to represent his father in board meetings. Before he went to that first meeting, his father had said to him, the Lynn family is a fat piece of meat. We must swallow them whole. They own the supply and logistics network that we have been eyeing for a long time. If it weren't for Lynn's father's accident, we wouldn't be able to touch it in this lifetime. I heard Lynn's daughter just took over the company. A little girl, what does she know? Sooner or later, she will be torn apart until nothing is left. Ethan, you go there to assess the situation, find out how capable the opponent is. So Ethan went, and then he met Lynn. He said, Dart, you must be wondering why I love Lynn. He paused for a moment, then continued, actually, the first time I met her was not 3 years ago, but when I was 16 years old. After you disappeared, I was tortured for a long time before being released from the hospital. At that time, I was still very weak, bullied, and didn't know how to resist. I could only silently call your name in my heart every day, gritting my teeth and enduring. I comforted myself, tried to be patient, and everything would pass. Until one day, Ethan was locked in a pitch-black storage room. Because he had been kidnapped when he was young, he suffered from claustrophobia. Inside that dark room, he frantically screamed, banging his hands hard on the door until they bled, but no one heard. No one came to save him. Even you were no longer there. Until Lynn followed the cries and found him. Her clear voice was like a piece of wonderful music in the chaotic night, soothing his panicked heart. She playfully said, classmate, crying like this, how will you get a wife in the future? Calm down, wait for me to find a policeman. When the door opened, Ethan saw her standing against the light, like a goddess descending, pulling him out of the swamp of despair. This is probably one of the rare warm memories in his mind. A faint smile curled at the corner of his lip, a hint of nostalgia flashed in his eyes. He said to me, Dart, do you know? That cramped, suffocating car trunk has always been the abyss in my nightmares. But when Lynn opened the door and reached out her hand to me, saying, I'm here, I felt like she had traveled through 8 years of time to rescue the 8-year-old boy from that car trunk. After that, he began to search for her, but only after investigating her name did he find out she had gone abroad. Until many years later, at the board meeting of the Lin Group, Ethan stood outside the meeting room, looking in at the girl resting her chin in her hand, sitting pensively at the conference table. That silhouette made him lose himself, until the other person noticed his gaze and turned her head. That familiar face seemed to overlap with the image of the girl in his memory of years ago. Curved eyebrows, bright, clear eyes, she smiled and extended her hand in front of him. "You must be Ethan. I am Lin. Nice to meet you." She didn't remember him at all. She also didn't remember her unintentional help years ago. Outside the floor-to-ceiling window of the meeting room, tall buildings stood close together, reflecting the brilliant light after the rain. Ethan stared at her, then slowly smiled, a smile carrying reminiscence mixed with indescribable emotions. He softly said, "Hello, Lin. I am Ethan." In his heart, there was a sentence he had never spoken. "I have been looking for you for a long time, and waiting for you for a long time." But Lin would never have the chance to hear this sentence. I asked him, "But it seems the relationship between you two is not very harmonious." Ethan sighed softly. "I used the wrong method, Dart. From childhood to adulthood, my world only taught me how to hate someone. No one taught me how to treat others well, except for you, and no one has ever treated me well either. So I don't understand." Therefore, from the beginning, he had offered Lin a transaction. This was what he was best at. At that board meeting, he had seen her predicament. Senior executives forming cliques and fighting each other, shareholders plotting to divide up the family business, distant relatives also beginning to stir, just hoping to bite off a piece of the fat meat. But it seemed Lin was not as weak as he thought. In the chaotic meeting, when the shareholders were arguing red-faced over the unequal distribution of benefits, she suddenly let go of her hand, dropping the glass cup beside her to the ground. The sound of glass shattering echoed sharply amidst the chaotic arguments. The entire meeting room instantly fell silent. All eyes simultaneously turned to her. 23-year-old Lin slightly frowned, but under the focused gaze of everyone, she didn't flinch at all, calmly saying, "Continue arguing." "What's wrong? Why aren't you arguing anymore? I thought you guys were shameless." The entire meeting room was silent. Only Ethan sitting opposite her smiled, looking at her. When she inadvertently glanced over after the meeting ended, the room was empty, but Ethan had not yet left. He poured a glass of water, placing it in front of her. Under her wary gaze, he chuckled softly. "Do you want to make a deal, Lin? Let's talk business." "Commercial marriage," he said to Lin. "Marry me. The chair you're sitting on is not stable. I will help you sit firmly." This was indeed an attractive proposition, but after a moment of silence, Lin still refused. She softly scoffed, coldly replying, "Mr. Ethan, I have no intention of taking marriage as a transaction. If I get married in the future, I hope the person I marry is someone I love, not for an exchange." This refusal didn't anger Ethan. On the contrary, he liked her even more. After that, he continued to appear beside her several more times, each time when she was in the most difficulty, but each time she coldly refused. Until the last time, at that time, banks collectively put pressure on the Lin Group. The group's cash flow was blocked, falling into crisis. Heavy rain poured down like water. After the negotiation with the bank, she walked out without an umbrella, letting the torrential rain pour down on her. From behind, I held up an umbrella, covering her head, sighing softly. "Lin, my proposal is still valid." She said nothing, only looking up at me from under the umbrella. Her eyes were as still as a deep lake. I continued, "If you refuse me today, tomorrow my father will officially launch the plan to take over the Lin Group." She looked at me suspiciously, asking, "Why me?" I tilted my head, my eyes indifferent, as if telling an unrelated story. "Because you need me. You need me to help you stabilize the situation. And my situation, you also know. I have a young but ambitious stepmother, a half-brother exiled abroad. My father is still capable of having children. The Lin family is in a storm. My family and yours, a marriage alliance, lowest risk, highest benefit. We are inherently a match made in heaven, aren't we?" Finally, she believed and we got engaged. Ethan knew that if he said directly that he liked her, she would definitely not believe it, and even think that he had ulterior motives. Only a purely transactional exchange would she agree to. He could only get her first, and then make her fall in love with him later. "Dart," Ethan asked me, "am I a fool?" I force her to agree to engagement. Want her to like me, but don't want her to know what I have done for her because of her. So what had he done for Lynn? For example, he had endured enormous pressure to persuade his father to abandon the plan to take over the Lynn Group. For example, he risked facing his father's scrutinizing gaze, calmly analyzing the benefits of this marriage alliance. For example, when his father probed, he only smirked. Just met once. How could I like her? A Lynn family with internal strife and a powerful corporation, which one is more beneficial to us? Isn't it too obvious? For example, immediately after the news of their engagement was announced, the banks immediately stopped putting pressure on Lynn. But Lynn, from childhood, had been pampered and cherished by her parents, growing up in luxury. For her, marriage to Ethan was no different from humiliation and coercion. She always maintained a cold attitude towards him, distant and indifferent. Even so, they had had moments of harmony. They had many things in common, shared hobbies, shared viewpoints. They had sat together, mocking the old foxes on the board of directors. Lynn had cooked porridge for him when he had a stomachache. She had also reminded him to wear more clothes when the weather turned cold. They had eaten together, dated together, enjoyed dances and paintings together. Outwardly, they were no different from a betrothed couple. It was just that there was always an invisible distance between them, not the intimacy of lovers, but more like a task to be completed. Until one day, Ethan recounted, in the first year after the engagement, I went to Lynn's company to find her. At that time, she was negotiating with Dave of the Dave Group. I didn't expect that when the negotiation ended, the two of them would smile at each other knowingly. Then I saw Dave happily hug her. Although he let go very quickly, she blushed and even looked at him with infatuation. We have been engaged for a year. She is my fiancée. Normally, she doesn't even let me hold her hand, let alone kiss her, yet she was hugged by another man and even revealed such an infatuated look. So he walked in, staring intently at the man who was smiling at her. Then he said to Lynn, I don't like Dave. Cancel the cooperation with him. At that time, all the cash flow that Lynn could mobilize depended on Ethan's family. She had no way to refuse him. She asked him, why? Why must you cancel the cooperation? He indifferently replied, just don't like him. That's why. Why ask so much? Lynn said nothing. On the contrary, Dave, standing beside her, gave a forced laugh. Perhaps he also felt the atmosphere at that time was too awkward, so he took the initiative to propose withdrawing from the cooperation. Lynn withdrew her gaze from Dave and turned to me. She looked at me for a long time, then gave a mocking smile. From then on, the relationship between the two people grew further and further apart. But this time, what made Ethan suffer was because he had blocked a writer. That writer publicly confessed his love for Lynn on social media and even wrote a love poem for her, even though she was clearly his fiancée. The writer came to Lynn, begging her to help him, asking me to be lenient. Such things Lynn would never usually care about, but this time, she used this as an excuse to openly confront me. She questioned me. Do you have to be so ruthless? She sneered, saying I was despicable and shameless. When I opened my eyes inside Ethan's body, I felt the suffocating pain overwhelming his heart. He looked at me through the reflection on the window glass. He was laughing, but that smile was uglier than crying. He genuinely asked me doubtfully, Dart, what exactly did I do wrong? I have never used any tactics against her. I am just protecting myself. Is that wrong? If someone wants to steal my girlfriend, I take precautions in advance. What's wrong with that? Ethan, with a pained expression, asked me, why did she say that about me? Was I wrong? You are not wrong. Of course you are not wrong. If anyone says you are wrong, says you are evil, then they are wrong, not you. I hated Lynn. I didn't hide this emotion in front of Ethan. Like a treacherous minister specializing in instigating the emperor to harm loyal subjects, I persuaded him bit by bit. Just dump her. But he only smiled, his eyes full of sorrow, sighing. But Dart, I have liked her for so many years. How can I give her up? I said nothing more, until we discovered Lynn seemed to have fallen for someone else. That day was Ethan's birthday. No matter how cold Lynn was to him, in name, they were still an engaged couple. 3 years of cooperation between the Ethan and Lynn families had bound their interests tightly together, not easily broken off just because of a few arguments. Ethan called her, his tone as calm as if there had never been any quarrel between them. Lynn, do you have time tonight? Let's have a meal together. Lynn replied, okay. This was the upper-class world. Even if both sides understood everything clearly, they would still maintain some decency for each other. No one would reveal any emotions outwardly. That evening, they dined at a private restaurant with extremely luxurious ambience. Lynn also gave Ethan a gift. He still maintained his smile, but I knew he was genuinely happy, a sincere joy. Even though the gift was just an ordinary tie, completely incomparable to the jewelry or expensive gifts he had given her before. He still sincerely said, "Thank you. I really like it." The dinner was normal. The two only chatted a few unimportant sentences. Everything seemed fine, until even I noticed something was wrong. Lynn was not focused. For people living in their environment, inattentiveness was a dangerous sign. Everyone around was watching their every move, every word, every expression. They had to be like a smoothly running machine, unable to make any mistakes. But she was absent-minded. Ethan asked a question twice before she finally snapped out of it, politely apologizing. "Sorry, I didn't hear clearly. Could you say it again?" Ethan didn't show any attitude. He just repeated the question calmly. "Next Sunday, my father is inviting us to attend the birthday party of the Citibank director's daughter. Will you go?" Lynn was stunned. After a long moment, she replied, "Sorry, I have something to do that week." Ethan only softly hummed once, picking up his water glass to hide his expression. When he put the glass down, his face had returned to his familiar smile, gently changing the subject as if this matter was not important at all. The dinner ended. On the way back in the car, he was silent for a long time before speaking. "Dart, she has someone in her heart." I softly hummed once, then said, "Call a private investigator." Expensive private investigators work very efficiently. Very quickly, Ethan and I learned the reason for Lynn's inattentiveness. That person was Dennis, a reporter from the Financial Daily. 2 months ago, he had interviewed Lynn. Ethan and I watched the investigated photos together. In the photos, Lynn was no longer a noble and refined lady like usual. She wore a simple white dress, looking surprisingly pure. She and Dennis were strolling on a tree-lined path, like a perfect couple, even holding a cup of milk tea in hand. Ethan's finger froze on the photo, his fingertip stopping right at the slight curve of Lynn's lips. His voice trembled slightly, carrying a rare weakness, as if he had returned to those old days. He asked me, "Dart, tell me, do you think she really likes him?" I laughed coldly. "Try it and you'll know." So I went to Lynn. She didn't notice the difference between me and Ethan. I sat opposite her, smiling, saying, "Lynn, last week, a friend of mine saw you watching a movie with a man. Although our marriage is just a commercial transaction, I still hope we can maintain loyalty. At least don't make me lose face in front of acquaintances." Lynn froze, her tone indifferent, not carrying any special emotion, only lightly smiling and saying, "No, it's just our media stunt." I remained silent, only smiling without answering. But less than a few days later, another photo appeared in the newspaper, a photo of some writers sitting in her car. Ethan and I stared at the newspaper, simultaneously laughing coldly. I sarcastically said to him, "Looks like it's true love." Even the feigned retreat tactic in the business world dares to be used to divert attention. Ethan said nothing, only quietly putting down the newspaper, picking up the photos that the private investigator had sent. In a park under a blooming wisteria trellis, Dennis bowed his head, gently kissing Lynn's forehead. Even though it was just a photo, one could still feel the pure and sacred love between the two. They were untainted by any impure thoughts. Lynn had never let Ethan kiss her, even just to act in front of the media, even though they had been engaged for 3 years. I looked at Ethan. He still maintained his expression, not saying a word, just staring intently at the photo. I advised, "Ethan, just give up. A woman like that is not worth it." If it were me, I would use this photo to force her to transfer the Lynn Group shares, then cancel the engagement, and chase her away far away. But that was because I had no feelings for her, so I could be completely rational, only caring about benefits. But Ethan loved her. He gritted his teeth, saying, "No one is allowed to betray me. Dart, I will make them pay the price. It doesn't matter if she doesn't love me. I have thought it through. I just need to have her. Even if she doesn't love me, she will still have to be by my side for the rest of her life, unless one day I myself don't need her anymore." Lynn said Ethan was despicable and shameless. He chuckled lightly, the corner of his lip curving into a meaningful smile. He replied, "Then let me be despicable once for you to see." The next day, Ethan returned to his usual appearance, polite, meticulous, acting elegantly, not revealing any trace of the anger from yesterday. He called Lynn, his tone calm. There is an interview with the Rich Financial magazine. Sometimes, rich people also have to pretend to be happy couples in front of the public to stabilize stock prices, reassure shareholders, maintain the confidence of the board of directors, and by the way, affirm the cooperative relationship between the two families. Lynn received the call, silent for a long time. Finally, she hesitated and said, "Ethan, I have something I want to talk to you about." "What else is there to talk about? Perhaps it's about canceling the engagement?" Anyway, the Lynn Group is no longer in as dire straits as 3 years ago. The situation has stabilized, so she wants to pursue true love. I watched the smile on Ethan's lips. The more furious and out of control he was inside, the gentler his smile became. That smile was as light as a breeze, but unfathomable, a strange appearance that even I had never seen before. He interrupted Lynn. "Anything is fine. Just wait until after the interview to talk." Lynn paused for a few seconds, then agreed. The interview took place as planned. The magazine prepared very professionally. Ethan sat next to Lynn, still maintaining his usual gentle smile. The two were well-matched, a perfect couple. Someone sighed, "In this world, what couple is more compatible than this?" Ethan put his arm around Lynn's shoulder, slowly recounting their story. He gently spoke of their fate, spoke of the care and concern she had shown him. He told a lot, seemingly to the point that even he himself believed that Lynn truly loved him, just like what he was saying. Perhaps it was to maintain face for Ethan, so throughout the interview, Lynn didn't refute anything. He told until the interview was about to end. Ethan and I looked into the distance, into the crowd. We saw Dennis standing there, his face gloomy, his eyes cold. Before, when Ethan called to arrange this interview, he had specially instructed the editor-in-chief of the publication, "I heard you have a reporter named Dennis. Please remember to arrange for him to attend this interview." At this moment, Ethan truly laughed. He asked me, "Dart, tell me, when Lynn realizes this, will she scold me as despicable and shameless again?" I didn't answer. He looked up at the sky again, his tone indifferent, as if he no longer cared. "She can say whatever she wants. How she sees me now is no longer important." But in reality, Lynn was not angry at all. She stood in front of Ethan, her tone calm. "You deliberately arranged this interview, proving you already know about Dennis, right?" She looked directly at him, her eyes firm. "Then let's cancel the engagement." Ethan looked at her, his face devoid of any expression. "What if I don't agree?" Lynn frowned, her expression a little puzzled. "Why wouldn't you agree?" "I am willing to concede on the share portion." "Ethan, from the beginning, the engagement between them wasn't just a cooperation?" Ethan was stunned, his face gradually turning pale, his voice somewhat strained. "From the beginning, you regarded this engagement as just a business deal?" Therefore, she had repeatedly delayed the wedding date. She had originally never intended to marry him. When she no longer needed this cooperative relationship, she just saw it as a concluded transaction, not even having a sense of guilt. Lynn looked at him indifferently, saying, "At first, I agreed to be engaged to you only because I was forced to. Only because I was forced to." The sincere affection that Ethan had cherished for so long turned out to be just her forced endurance. Perhaps because his face was too pale, Lynn hesitated slightly, hesitatingly asking, "Ethan, why are you looking at me like that? You don't love me, and I don't love you. Being together will only make both of us suffer." Ethan burst out laughing. She said one sentence, he laughed a little. The laughter grew deeper and deeper, until she finished speaking. He was already laughing very happily. He said, "But Lynn, if I tell you now that I am not indifferent to you, what then?" Previously, he had told me that he didn't want Lynn to be with him out of gratitude. He wanted her to love him. He said, "Wait until the day she likes me. I will tell her about the first time we met 12 years ago. I will tell her that I have loved her for 12 years, have waited for her for 12 years, and finally waited until the day she loves me." Dart, is that very romantic? We will get married. We'll have 2 children. We'll grow old together. When I get so old that I can't walk anymore, I will hug our grandsons and granddaughters and tell them about the love story of their grandparents. But Lynn had never loved him. He was forced to express his feelings earlier than planned, but after hearing it, she only indifferently replied, 12 years ago, I have long forgotten." The smile on Ethan's lips gradually faded. Lynn paused for a moment, then calmly added, "I once investigated you, Ethan. In your teens, you caused your half-brother to be exiled abroad, caused your stepmother to miscarry and then get divorced, and even arranged for your father to have an affair with another woman." She raised her eyebrows, smiling faintly. "Ethan, the young master of the Ethan family, you are full of tactics in the business world. Betrayal and deception among people are commonplace, aren't they? Haven't you gotten used to it yet? Slap. A strong slap landed hard on her. She fell silent. I couldn't hold back anymore. I slapped her straight across the face. Perhaps because she had never seen Ethan like this, she turned her head, her eyes full of shock. I clenched the hand that had just hit her, coldly looking straight into her eyes, enunciating each word. Lynn, you are truly despicable. Ethan has so many tactics, but he has never used them on you even once. And you? From the very beginning, you have been calculating against him like this. He is truly blind to have liked someone like you. After speaking, I turned around and left. Perhaps because my words had confused her, she just stood there, looking at my retreating figure in bewilderment. But I didn't bother to pay attention to her anymore. Ethan remained silent in my body. I asked, heartbroken. He was discarded by the person he loved with his own hands, like a useless thing. I asked again, if you hadn't met Lynn at 16, would you have liked her? He was silent for a long while, then replied, no, but I have met her already. What else can I do? Not sooner, not later. She appeared in his life at exactly that moment. In Ethan's memory, she was shrouded in a layer of illusory light, unattainable. He stubbornly wanted to have her, like pursuing a teenage dream, a dream he had never been able to touch. I sighed, asking him, can you not like her anymore? You are too soft-hearted towards her, it's affecting me. I want to take revenge for you, but I have to worry about your feelings. His voice was tired, very tired, the tiredness carrying even bewilderment. He said, I don't know, Dart. I really don't know where to go anymore. He was lost. In this world, only Lynn could make him become so weak. I didn't want to see him like this. I could only softly comfort. It's okay, Ethan. I will go with you, always go with you. I will not betray you, will not calculate against you. You can forever trust me. No matter if it's wind, rain, or storm, I will always be here. I will never abandon you alone again. But I didn't expect the wound that Lynn left in his heart to be deeper than I thought. The day Ethan disappeared from my body was the day that had been set for Lynn to try on wedding dresses. Even though he knew clearly she had never intended to marry him, he still held onto a sliver of hope. That wedding dress was personally created by a famous Japanese designer, adorned with 1,000 pearls and a precious platinum diamond, worth up to $8.5 million. That day, when going to try on wedding dresses with Lynn, he still clearly remembered the professionally trained store staff skillfully praising, Ms. Lynn, Mr. Ethan truly loves you. A wedding dress so luxurious, it's really rare. But in the end, she didn't even come to try on the dress. As soon as he stepped into the store, the staff's faces turned pale. That staff member cautiously said, Mr. Ethan, Ms. Lynn just called, saying she won't come. Please don't worry, there is still time before the wedding ceremony. Just coax the young lady a little bit, and it will be fine. Ethan said nothing. I knew he understood clearly that this wedding dress would not be worn by anyone. Not because it didn't fit, not because it wasn't expensive enough, but because from the beginning, that woman had never intended to wear it for him. After leaving the wedding dress shop, on the sidewalk, he was hit by a reckless taxi. Actually, it wasn't too serious. The doctor said it was just a minor scratch. The police said this collision was not worth filing a report. Just need the two sides to negotiate themselves. The taxi driver blushed, hurriedly apologizing. Sir, looking at your attire, you surely don't lack money. My family still has elderly parents and young children. Please don't make a big deal out of this. No one considered this accident important. But only I knew. Ethan had disappeared from my body. Before disappearing, he stared at that taxi. I heard him call my name. Dart, I'm too tired. Yes, too tired. From childhood, he had been forced to compete and seize. He had struggled for so many years, but in the end, everything turned out to be just soap bubbles. He was tired, wanted to rest. I took over his body right when he closed his eyes. I softly said, It's okay, Ethan. If you are tired, just sleep for a while. Wait until you wake up. Everything will be better. I promised him. When I opened my eyes, I happened to hear the conversation between Lynn and the doctor. The doctor said, We have done a comprehensive examination. Mr. Ethan only has minor external injuries. No serious problems. Lynn asked, Then why hasn't he woken up yet? The doctor replied, perhaps due to shock. Wait a little longer, he will wake up. She nodded, thanking the doctor. After the doctor left, she turned around, just in time to see me open my eyes. At that moment, the smile on her face gradually disappeared, until her expression completely became cold. After a while, she spoke, her voice distant. Ethan, the accident site is in the city center. The speed of the taxi at that time did not exceed 15 kilometers per hour. It didn't even touch you. Don't pretend anymore. I didn't answer her. She must have thought that Ethan was pretending to be pitiful to cling to her. She frowned, a little impatient. Ethan, what exactly do you want to do? At this moment, I finally looked up at her, my gaze cold, indifferent, carrying judgment. I smiled faintly, slowly asking back, what do I want to do? Lynn, when you and Dennis were secretly seeing each other, Ethan was still your fiancé, right? Even if you hate him, think he is despicable, you can't deny that he has never betrayed you. When you were 23 years old, when you just returned to take over the Lynn Group, everyone wanted to suppress you, swallow the Lynn Group whole. The last person to lend you a helping hand was Ethan. In recent years, the cooperation between the Ethan family and the Lynn Group has brought you so many benefits, you understand better than anyone. In these years, has he ever done anything wrong to you? I paused for a moment, then looked straight into her eyes, breaking into a smile, word by word, slowly saying, even if you don't like him, but when he was still your fiancé, at least you should respect him, shouldn't you? I know you were forced to be engaged to Ethan that year. From your perspective, I also bless your courage to pursue true love. But at least, before you pursue your love, shouldn't you wait until Ethan agrees to cancel the engagement first? The way I addressed him made her a little confused. Lynn slightly frowned, staring at me intently, her eyes assessing. Finally, she coldly replied, I have already said, I am willing to pay the price for my mistake. I chuckled. But Lynn, if it weren't for Ethan saving you that year, the entire Lynn Group would have long become the Ethan families already. What else do you have to bargain with me? I pulled the blanket down, getting out of bed. When passing by her, I lowered my head, looking at her cold but alluring face. She also looked up at me, her eyelashes slightly trembling, a hint of doubt flashing in her eyes. At the moment I passed her, she suddenly grabbed my sleeve, whispering, You are not Ethan. Who are you? I laughed coldly, looking at her, slowly replying, Ms. Lynn, haven't you investigated me already? Why didn't you find out that I was once in a mental hospital for a while? Ethan is dead. The person standing in front of you now is a different Ethan. Don't you hate him very much? Congratulations, from now on, he will never appear in your world again. She was stunned. I didn't care about her reaction, only took out my phone to call for a driver to pick me up. When I got home, old Mr. Ethan was sitting at the dining table. Next to him was his beautiful and obedient sworn daughter, helping him get food. I looked straight into his eyes, calmly saying, Dad, I want to cancel the engagement with Lynn. Not I want, but I have decided. Slap. My face was slapped to the side. I was not surprised. The salty taste of blood filled my mouth, my ears still ringing. Ethan's sworn sister softly exclaimed, grabbing my father's arm, her voice gentle and coaxing, Dad, whatever it is, just talk. How can you hit someone like this? Old Mr. Ethan's tone was calm. That year, you were the one who insisted on marrying her. Now that the Lynn Group has recovered, you say you don't want to marry anymore. Ethan, in this world, there is no such easy thing. I smiled faintly, wiping away the blood at the corner of my mouth, coldly saying, She doesn't like me. Old Mr. Ethan laughed, not paying attention to my strange way of addressing him, only indifferently saying with disdain, When you resolutely wanted to marry her, didn't she already not like you? I chuckled softly. If there was a mirror, surely at this moment my smile would be exactly the same as Ethan's smile from before. I softly said, But now, I also don't like her anymore. I called Lynn. No beating around the bush, no superfluous words. My tone cold, directly, Want to cancel the engagement? Okay, my condition, 49% of the Lynn Group shares. The other end of the phone was silent. After a moment, she coldly replied, Impossible. I had long anticipated that she wouldn't agree. After all, 49% of shares meant that control of the company would completely fall into my hands. I curled my lip into a faint smile. It's okay. If you can't give shares, then convert it according to the highest price of the past half year and pay me in cash. Shares you can't give, but money you can take out. As long as she could get rid of me, she would definitely agree. Signing the contract, many people were present. Lawyers from both sides carefully reviewed each clause, meticulous to every word. Only I sat by the window, watching the birds flying outside. Until confirming the final signature, Lynn raised her head, looking at me, asking, from now on, we owe each other nothing anymore, right? She looked at me, but didn't ask about Ethan, didn't ask if he was still alive, didn't ask why he had disappeared. The only thing she cared about was whether she had completely severed ties with me. I took a sip of tea, the drink that Ethan had never touched. He liked wine, liked coffee, but hated tea. Lynn's gaze froze, falling on the teacup in my hand. I chuckled softly, slowly replying, of course. Finally, we each go our own way. I called her back. She doubtfully turned her head, looking at me. I smiled at her, a smile just like Ethan usually smiled. I said, Lynn, Ethan no longer loves you. He has loved you for a very long time, very long, but now, I feel I need to tell you one thing. He doesn't love you anymore. Lynn said nothing, only looked at me with deep eyes, silently observing for a long while. Finally, she turned around and left. That was the last time I met her. After receiving the money, I very comfortably cooperated with the organization to hold a press conference, officially announcing the cancellation of the engagement with Lynn. Facing the camera, I smiled, but the corner of my lip was slightly stiff, the smile carrying a bit of forced fortitude. I said, we broke up peacefully. The two families will still continue to cooperate in some fields. No need to worry about the Lynn Group's stock price being affected. It's okay. After a while, when everyone forgets about this matter, their stock price will still rise. Ethan and Lynn were not stars, but in the upper-class world, this was still shocking news. Everyone gossiped and speculated about the real reason for our engagement cancellation. I just remained silent, neither denying nor explaining. Until a post appeared online, sharing the most well-matched couples you've ever seen. Someone had unintentionally uploaded a photo of Dennis and Lynn, and for some reason, this post suddenly exploded. In the comments section, someone wondered, wait, isn't Lynn Mr. Ethan's fiancée? Right below was an old news article with a sensational headline, Heavenly Love in the Wealthy Circle. The photo in the article was Ethan hugging Lynn's shoulder, his eyes full of doting. Someone commented, heard they broke off the engagement already, but someone also doubted. Impossible. Look at this photo. The season is still cold. Could it be that Dennis intervened when Lynn was still in the engagement? I had once said to her, you want to pursue true love? I won't stop you. But at least, it should be after canceling the engagement, right? Rumors never lacked heat. That post spread quickly on the internet, then mutated into the topic of the most successful infidelity relationships. Even friends who were not close carefully sent me links, comforting. Ethan, don't be too sad. Sad. I watched the Lynn Group's stock price curve plummeting, laughing until tears streamed down my face. Dennis's days probably weren't easy either. I once went to the newspaper office from afar, observing him. His eye sockets were sunken, his face haggard, the eyes of colleagues around him looking at him with disdain. Heard that his superiors had tactfully advised, your image has seriously affected the image of the publication. I sat in the car, smiling softly, saying to Ethan, who was sleeping deeply in my body, Ethan, are you happy? No one answered. 3 days later, Lynn called me. She angrily accused, Ethan, you didn't keep your word. I leisurely took a sip of tea, indifferently saying, in the business world, anything can happen, Ms. Lynn. You have so many tactics. Shouldn't you be used to betrayal and deception in business already? She was speechless. I laughed. Before hanging up, as if suddenly remembering something, my tone softened. Oh, right. Miss Lynn, congratulations to you and Dennis. Finally, you can be together. But there is one thing Ethan didn't want to tell you, but I am not him, you understand. I am someone who always likes to help others. I softly reminded. If I were you, before falling in love with Dennis, I would find someone to investigate his background. For example, his father, who is in prison for drunk driving causing a fatal accident 3 years ago, who was the person he crashed into. The other end of the phone was completely silent, only her breathing suddenly becoming rapid. I chuckled, laughing very comfortably. Tell me, if your father in heaven knew that his daughter is in love with the son of the person who killed him, would he crawl out of his grave to find you? Ethan and I had investigated Dennis long ago. When receiving the first photos, I had curled my lip, saying to Ethan, "Good. No need for you to take action. Just let Lynn know who his father is, and the two of them will automatically end." Ethan held the photo, his expression a little panicked, muttering, asking me, "If she knows about this, she will definitely be very heartbroken, right?" Enough. I was really fed up. To this point, in her heart, Ethan was still just a despicable and evil person. She had once said, "Ethan, you are a despicable and shameless person. You have countless tactics, so you must be used to betrayal and deception in business, right?" She treated him like that, but Ethan would still blankly ask me a question. "If she knows about this, she will definitely be very heartbroken, right?" In her eyes, Ethan was a despicable person. But it's okay. I am not Ethan. Ethan was afraid she would be heartbroken, but I wasn't. The more she hurt, the happier I was. I kept this secret, just waiting for the day they thought they had overcome all obstacles, thought they had finally achieved true love, thought they had defeated an evil villain like me. When they were immersed in the illusion of a perfect ending, I would gently deliver the final fatal blow. "Just go, Lynn. Ethan and we forever bless you. Only, before that, everything you have taken away from Ethan, I will take back one by one. You made him hurt so much, I will make you hurt just as much." How refreshing. A year later, old Mr. Ethan had a stroke. I took over all of his family business. He sat in a wheelchair, mouth crooked, face lopsided, unable to speak, his whole body immobile. I squatted in front of him, holding his old and wrinkled hand, sighing, "Ethan's father, how did you end up like this?" He couldn't answer me, only could maintain a distorted appearance, uttering unclear, sounds. That night, I looked in the mirror. No matter how I smiled, I couldn't see Ethan's shadow in it. The person in the mirror was cold and emotionless. I called his name, word by word, just like before he used to call me. I told him that his father had been taken to a nursing home. I told him that I had paved the way for him. From now on, he would no longer be tired. So why hasn't he come back yet? But the person in the mirror didn't answer, only silently looked at me coldly, like a ghost. I sighed. "Ethan, wake up on a spring day when the weather is warm and flowers are blooming." I said to him, "Ethan, wake up. Spring is so beautiful. If you miss it, you'll have to wait another year." No one answered me. I softly said, "Okay, being heartbroken and despairing for love, you can be sad, but everything must have a limit. If you sleep any longer, it will be impolite." Spring breeze gently brushed past. I waited for a long time. The space was quiet and empty. No one was there. I self-deprecatingly laughed at myself, then lowered my head, continuing to process the mountain of documents piled high in front of me. Just when I opened the first page, a soft laugh echoed. "Spring is so beautiful, yet you are sitting here facing these headache-inducing numbers, Dart. I don't want to look at them." I froze, then bit by bit, I broke into a smile. I said, "Then don't look at them anymore. Let's go to Hangzhou, go to Guilin, go to Linji, go to Delo. If you are bored, we can go abroad. The world is so big, the scenery is so beautiful. Let's walk together step by step, admiring everything." He laughed, just like the first time we met, like a clear stream flowing through the pebbles under the early spring sunshine. Clear, gentle, free, and pure. He said, "Okay." A long time ago, Ethan had asked me, "Dart, what exactly are you? Do you really exist?" At that time, I also didn't know. He asked me, "Am I mentally ill? Are you just a product of my psychological illness? Are those things important?" "Not important." Ethan had said to me, "You are my shelter in the darkest days. You are the only ray of light shining into my life. Life is inherently harsh, but I always believe that suffering and salvation always coexist. Just grit your teeth and endure. You will find a way out of the darkness. In this world, the only person you can rely on is yourself. Therefore, you must learn to love yourself, never give up." Just like San Mao said, the human mind is like a bottomless abyss, thousands of miles away. No boat can take you to the other shore. Only you can save yourself. Others cannot help. Ethan asked me, "Dart, what exactly are you?" I smiled. "I am you. You are me.